Hi folks, it's Andy. Welcome to this week's Kendo Rant. I've got loads of questions for us to look at today. Some really great ones, both from the YouTube comments and from the Kendo Show Early Access group. That's a great place to post comments for this show, by the way. If you're not in the group, it's free to join. You should be in the group. There's a link in the description down below. As I said last week, I have heard that some of you haven't been shopping at kendostar.com. I mean, what are you doing? Come on now. Come on. Get to kendostar.com, do all your Kendo shopping there. That's my website, of course. That is not only the thing that pays for all this to happen, but it's a fantastic Kendo equipment web store. All the stuff on there is designed or curated by me. It's the top-rated Kendo store on the internet. 5-star Trustpilot rating, which is an independent review aggregate. We're the only one with that. So yeah, get to KendoStar. Right, let's get into these questions. Hey Andy, is it possible to talk about the key points to passing first cue and then the transition to passing first dan? Thanks. You have to make cuts with fumikomi. Okay, if you can make men strikes, large men strikes, and perform kirikaishi with fumikomi, then you're able to get first cue, and pretty much the same sort of thing, just with probably a little bit better tenuichi to get first dan. Okay, so you need to make strikes with fumikomi, with kikentai no ichi, so the stamp has to be timed with the cut, okay? And you can't do it with the sort of suriashi, okay? You have to do the fumikomi, okay? Unless there's a good reason that you can't. Next one. I'll participate in a shiai in about 2 weeks. I want to prepare my conditioning to last as long as possible during the match. I have a gym in my apartment, which I use almost daily, and I'd like to know which exercises or what is the best non-kendo activity that I can do to be ready for the shiai. I really want to be in my best shape in order to perform my best in the shiai. Okay, so I get asked this question a lot, like what's a good exercise routine, like outside of Kendo, or what's the, like I'm going to start Kendo soon, but what can I do like to work out in order to prepare myself? There isn't anything massive, you know, I wouldn't say go and do like this kind of thing or that, you know, go and try and bench press this amount or something like that. The best thing you can do is work on your cardio, get on the treadmill, the exercise bike, something like that. Try to improve your stamina and yeah, try to just keep in shape. All right, same goes for preparing for a shiai. You know, I think the best thing for you to do is just hammer the cardio and just try and get yourself fit and in shape, all right, so that you're not going to run out of breath halfway through. Next one. Thank you so much for answering my previous question. I really appreciate it. I have a small question regarding the kata. Since I'm self-learning Kendo, can I train on the kata alone and take the roles of both shitachi and uchitachi? To a very small extent, you probably could do that. You could learn the basic movements of both sides. You know, there's nothing, you know, preventing you to do that, but you're never going to really be able to practice it at its full level in the way that it was intended, like the rest of Kendo. So you can't really self-learn to a very far extent, I'm afraid, with Kendo. I think it's great that you are participating in self-learning in that way, but at some point you're going to have to try and find a partner to practice with, and preferably, more than preferably, to be honest, an instructor that's going to be able to help you sort of improve in the right way and make sure that you're actually on the right track, okay? But by all means, you know, try to learn the movements of both sides of the kata by yourself, but do indeed try and get yourself down to a dojo, even if it's like an hour or two's drive away or whatever. You know, and you can't, even if you can't make it every week, you know, try to get some sort of input. Next one. With the hand stitch men that you show in the video, what is the boo slash stitch width? And when ordering a hand-stitched bulk set, would that also be the standard stitch size? So in the last Kendo Rant, we talked about some stitching, and I showed a hand-stitched men on the video. It was a 2.0 bu, okay? Nibu zashi, 2.0 bu. It's about the equivalent of around 6 millimeters in sort of modern measurements, which they use for machine-stitched sets. I'd say that 2.0 bu is the optimum stitch width for hand-stitched borger. It's stitched in a very different way to machine-stitched borger. There's actually, it's only one thread that runs through the futon, whereas a machine stitch is actually stitched from both sides with 2 threads. So you can actually get away with a slightly finer stitch width and still retain that flexibility and cushioning. So I generally recommend around a 2.0 as being the most comfortable, the most protective, and the all-round sort of best. Okay, if you go much smaller than that, you can go down to 1.5 if you really want it to look a little bit finer. But I wouldn't go down to 1.2 or certainly not 1.0. 1.2 ball grit can feel really, really stiff. It takes ages to break in, and it's much thinner. Okay. Next one. I currently have a 3mm ball set, and the men is kind of stiff. After an hour of practice, also it can hurt quite a lot over the years in the surrounding area. I'm looking to upgrade soon. Do you think a wider stitching, which makes it softer, right, could help this? Or does it have to do with how it fits? Yeah, it sounds to me like this, yeah, definitely the stitching, wider stitching than 3mm will help this stiffness. It will definitely be softer, definitely be more comfortable. And you also put a second question here saying, ideally, how tight should the men be on the chin? When I put it on, I tie it so that it fits with my mouth closed, but after a few exercises, moving my mouth and chin for kiai, it often loosens up and fits worse than when my mouth is closed. Am I doing something wrong? So it sounds as well like the men is too big for you. All right, you should tie it pretty tight, actually, almost as tight as you can. Not so it's like cutting off the blood and stuff, but you need to tie it pretty tight and then pull on the mendari on both sides. Go and watch the video of how to wear the men. And it should fit on your head then without moving around, even after you've opened your mouth for kiai and stuff like that, okay? Next one, okay. I perspire profusely during practice, and I was wondering if I would be allowed to wear a bandana to absorb my sweat and prevent it from running into my eyes, as I have little to no hair to stop it. When I wear borgu, my tenugui and men do the job, but without them I suffer. So you mean when you're not wearing the men, to wear what's called hachimaki in Japanese, which is like a folded bandana around the head to stop to stop the sweat running in your eyes. That's actually quite normal for people in Japan, especially kids who make up the majority of beginners in Japan. I'm sure if you speak to your sensei and say, you know, I'm struggling with the sweat running in my eyes, do you mind if I wear a bandana whilst we do the exercises without borgu? I'm sure they'd be fine with it. I would be if you were in my dojo. I don't think it's a problem at all. Okay, these next group of questions are from the Kendo Show Early Access group. There's a link in the description down below. It's a great place to post your questions. Not only do I answer them here on the show, but basically it's a great community of Kendoka from all over the world. There's thousands of people in there now, ranging from all different grades right up to 7th Dan. So it's a great forum really for your questions. Right, with the Furukawa Sensei analysis and in the recent Kendo RANT video, you explain the difference between stepping back because of your partner's semi and stepping back to draw your partner in whilst applying your own semi. Many instructors tell their students not to retreat full stop. As a grading examiner, would you have any issues with the latter, draw in retreat in the Shinsa Jigeko, or is retreat in grading a no-no? So we talked a bit in the Kendo analysis video, which is a video I put out where I take Kendo videos from around the internet and we kind of break them down and analyze the bits from it. And we did Furukawa Sensei, very famous for his ski waza, last week. And we talked about how he used the action of stepping back to invite his opponent when his opponent was ready to strike. So invite his opponent and then make a strike. It is a valid technique to do that. It's called sasoi. And it requires very good footwork. As to whether you should do it in a grading or not, probably best not to. If you do it really well, and it's really obvious that that's what you're doing when looked at from the outside, then I guess, it's not necessarily a problem, but it's not something I'd recommend risking or gambling on, because it can, if it goes wrong, it certainly does look like you're trying to run away. And even when it goes right, it doesn't necessarily look super confident. It's not the best sort of waza to rely on in a grading exam, I'd say. Certainly in the sort of early Dan grades up to probably 5th Dan. So yeah, probably you're better focusing on the sort of going forward waza rather than ones where you're sort of stepping back too much. But again, like I say, if you pull off an amazing Devano Waza through using that kind of semi, I mean, that's, no one's going to hold that against you. But it's a pretty brave thing to do in a grading, let's put it that way. Next one, are Kumdo and Kendo ranks considered the same for the purposes of Shiai? For example, would a Shodan or above be eligible for the Mudansha brackets of a tournament of either of those organizations? No. I mean, the ranks are generally considered the same, especially if the Kumdo ranks are administered under the Korean Kumdo Federation that's affiliated to the FIK. If it's affiliated to the FIK, then all the ranks are, that's the International Kendo Federation, by the way, then all of the ranks are basically equal. So somebody that was maybe like Shodan or Nidan, then going to say that in Kendo, turning up to a Kumdo tournament would still have to enter that sort of Shodan or Nidan division if it was indeed separated by Dan. I'm sure there's outliers, I'm sure there's outliers out there, but I think for the most part, yeah, it's generally administrated under the same umbrella. Next one, maybe a less elegant question, but is there a proper way to walk up a set of stairs in a hakama? Yeah, you take a handful of them in each of your hand, lift them up so that they're sort of, above your ankles and walk on up the stairs. That's pretty much it. There's no like specific way of doing that, right? You just pick them up like you were wearing a long skirt, which you almost are, and then walk on up the stairs that way. Next one, what are the Kendo YouTube channels you follow, and should there be more? The Kendo Show, that's the best one on the internet. So definitely subscribe to that one. There's a button down there for you to do it. There's other ones as well. If you follow our Facebook page, the Kendo Star Facebook page, that is, or go on the Kendo Star website, I'm posting blog posts almost every day from different YouTube channels that I watch from around the internet. Most of them are Japanese ones that follow different Japanese Kendo events. And they're pretty much all the ones that I watch. There's quite a lot of them out there, to be honest. I think they're the main ones. And Kendo Jidai International, actually, I'm kind of happy with. I think they're doing a great job too of putting out original Japanese content with like English information in there. So go and check those guys out too. Next one, I used to do Fumikomi for Tsuki in a similar fashion to a men's strike. As a result, it was often a bit painful for the other guy. Not only that, but whenever I missed, it caused me to do an awkward tai-atari. Lately, I changed the way of doing Fumikomi for Tsuki. It feels more like a stomp in place, kind of like a hikimen, but without going backwards. Doing so, Tsuki got much less painful and I became more stable whenever I missed. Based on all this, I guess I did a correct change. Here are the questions though. 1, is this way of doing Fumikomi actually correct, or am I missing something? 2, are there other waza where this Fumikomi is also useful? 3, this method of Fumikomi is sometimes a bit hurtful on the heels. I've heard people saying I should relax my foot. This helps, but as the side effect of removing tension of my left leg, this is making me slower. Any help with that? About the Zanshin after ski, some people say to stay in place, other people say to move backwards. Both seem reasonable. I don't know which is best, which one. So I think you're describing you must get to the distance and then maybe where you're on the spot, ski like this. I don't think this is a good way to do ski. I don't think that's going to meet the criteria of Yuko Datotsu, frankly. You have to take a step forward when you do ski. Okay, you have to take a step forward. You get to Isokuito, which is a bit closer for ski than it is for men. And you either leave the left foot where it is, step forward. Okay, I'm getting close to the mic, so it's going to get louder. Step forward as you perform ski, and then draw backwards for Zanshin. Okay, forward Fumikomi, back Zanshin. Okay, and then retreat a little bit more. You don't just stay on the spot. You never just stay on the spot, right? Or the other way is to leap forward with Fumikomi and bring the left foot up after it in a similar way as you would for men. That doesn't mean you don't throw the same sort of momentum at them as you do for men though, right? Because you're not going to crash into them or go past. Yeah, you know that you're gonna hit and then you're gonna come backwards. You're gonna take one step in forward, left leg's come up here, tsuki, and draw back this way for zanshin. Okay, you're not gonna just go bam this way and go flying through. All right, so you have to have more control over the way you're manipulating your weight as you move. Okay, I don't recommend just stamping on the spot like this for tsuki. You're gonna have to get super close. And like I say, I don't see that being the Yuko Datotsu. So yeah, I think that answers pretty much all of that there. Right, I'm sure this has been answered before. What does Kendo mean to you? I remember you said once or twice that Kendo is not sword fighting. I think I know what you mean by that, and certainly for me, Kendo isn't just sword fighting either. But I'd like to hear from you what Kendo means to you. So yeah, I mean, Kendo isn't about winning sword fights, I think is what I normally say. It's not a method of learning how to win duels. Kendo is a method of self-improvement, a way of becoming better, a better person and becoming better at life in general. And it's an interesting thing. I don't know how to answer what Kendo means to me. I mean, Kendo is part of my life. It's a bit like breathing or eating or sleeping. It's part of what I do to function, which it sounds really sort of corny actually now I said that out loud, but that's kind of how it works with me. It's not something I even do for fun or to relax, because I don't feel relaxed. Yeah, I actually find Kendo quite stressful a lot of the time, and I certainly don't necessarily find it fun a lot of the time either. It's very difficult. It's very serious. There are times when it brings me joy, of course, but at the same time, it's not something that I can look at and say, oh, it was really fun. I want to do something fun. Let's go and do some Kendo. I don't really see it like that. I'd go and play on my PlayStation instead. But it's a bit like, it's just part of what I do to survive in a way. It's influenced my life so much. It's in every aspect of my life pretty much, and it's a part of who I am. Okay, last one. Is Mukaitsuki illegal, and where is it in the rule book? Okay, so Mukaitsuki, I've got a rule book here. Mukaitsuki is it's actually a somewhat subjective term, believe it or not. Mukae means to meet. And ski, so it means that ski together. So when you sort of ski to meet the opponent, it's a bit of a subjective term because some people it's not an official name for a waza or anything like that. There isn't an official technique called Mukaitsuki. Some people interpret it to mean when you hold the kamae and the other person attacks men without taking the center and they sort of impale themselves on your shinai. Some people call that Mukaitsuki. Okay, some people call that Mukaitsuki. Other people consider when, and I think what you're referring to here, when you see the person's going to attack and you kind of do tsuki at that point to try and stop their attack as Mukaitsuki. And look, the thing is it's not specifically written in the rule book to my knowledge. I haven't found it anyway, and I've sort of read it cover to cover, but if I missed it somewhere, let me know. But it doesn't specifically talk about the act of Mukaitsuki, but it does indeed talk about prohibited acts. And it one of the things it does say, and this is, where are we? This is on page 8 of the latest version of the English and Japanese one. And it says that in the subsidiary rules, Article 16, prohibited acts in Article 17, Item 7 of the regulation shall include the following: putting one's hand on the opponent or holding the opponent in one's arm. So note that, right? These are things that will get you a hansoku, yeah? If you put your hand on your opponent, right, that's hansoku, right? That means that if you miss their kote, and you hit them on the elbow, and it's your mate or something like that, and you pat them on the elbow, oh, sorry mate, sort of thing, sorry about that. That's hand soccer for you, actually. It says there, black and white. Or if like you try to grab your arms around them like that, you think you're going to fall over and you grab them. These are things I've seen happen. Yeah, that's actually hand soccer. Obviously taking hold of the opponent's shinai, or grasping one's own shinai on its jimbo, so touching your own shinai on the blade, taking hold of the opponent's shinai under your arm. So if you sort of come together and you intentionally put the opponent's shinai under your arm this way, so it gets trapped. Intentionally putting one shinai on the opponent's shoulder, lying face down after falling on the floor without counteracting the opponent. So if you fall over and you stay on the floor to avoid the opponent attacking you. This doesn't mean if you fall down, you land face down, bam, that's instant hand soccer. That means like you're there and you're kind of cowering for ages to avoid them striking you. That's you know, that's what's wrong with that. Intentionally wasting time. And then number 7, and this is where we actually get to the question, doing inappropriate tsubazariai or datotsu, all right? So it's pretty inappropriate to start stabbing someone like from below as they come to hit you. You know, if you see and you kind of do this to try and nullify their point or something like that, or you just get a bit rough with it. You know, of course, yeah, that can be judged as hand soccer. That's essentially the decision of the shimpan, all right? So if you're acting in a dangerous way, if what you're doing is clearly dangerous, isn't in the pursuit of yuko datotsu, obvious yuko datotsu, then yeah, that could certainly be judged as hand soccer. Okay, that's it for today.